Right, letter number 3 of the evening for OET Write Now. I've done 2. I'll just do this one. I might have time for one more. So I explained the strategy in video 1 and 2. I'm not looking at the case notes on purpose. The reason for this is, if you think about it, the recipient would not have access to those notes. So as I keep explaining, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the reader. All right, so you go to the task, who are you writing to? That'll tell you audience and purpose, and you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the potential recipient and think, right, if I were that person and I got this letter and I only had this, is the purpose clear, what it is I'm being asked to do? And is there a logical construction of the narrative? Does it make sense? You know, you want me to do something, you're telling me about something, then you're telling me a story. Is it, is it logical? This is the organization and layout part. Now, there's a fair bit of grammar and vocab. In the previous letter 1 and 2, we had a fair bit of grammar and vocab, and I can see we have some here. We have to pay attention to these. So I'll just go through it line by line as if I were the reader, and I'll show you what I mean. So, got the DOB. I'll just make sure I've got the changes on. Let's have a look. Changes. Okay. So, regarding what? Now, I'm writing regarding. Why don't you simply make your purpose clear? I'm writing to request your follow-up care. I'm writing to update you on the condition. I'm writing to, etc. So, now, after the idea of his mother's genitive case, remarriage, you wouldn't put that in the opening. Why would you put that there? I'm the reader, Dr. Twyford. I want to know what it is you want me to do. You can tell me later in the rest of it if this particular thing about his mother is important, but I want to know, what do you want me to do? So you want me to follow up Mr. Mills's care. Why didn't you say that? So I'm writing to request your follow-up care of Mr. Mills, who is being discharged today after hospitalization for recurrent paranoid schizophrenia. That would do. That would be it. Okay? I'm writing to request your follow-up care of Mr. Mills, who is being discharged after hospitalization for recurrent paranoid schizophrenia. The nicotine dependence, I don't think that's the main issue here. I don't think so. I think that the main issue is mental state. And what's this got to do with anything? This should be later on in the body, certainly not here in the purpose. So now, is this supposed to be a history paragraph? He's a smoker and a drinker. So what? Unless you're planning to tell me how many he smokes and drinks, this information is meaningless. He could smoke 1 cigarette a day. He might sip 1 sip of beer, without you telling me how much. This is kind of pointless. Okay. So he's a smoker and a drinker. So Mr. Mills is a smoker and a drinker. Now, how can he live with his mother after separating his parent? And what does that mean? After separating from his parents? But he's living with one of his parents. So this makes no sense at all. How can he separate from... So what, after his parents' separation, I think you might mean. But what you've put here makes no sense at all. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, which right. Did he admit himself? Did he discharge himself? No. Did he hospitalize himself? No. It should be passive. He was admitted. Probably didn't admit himself. Or he self-admitted. He was. It's passive. He didn't hospitalize himself, unless he was self. Well, if he attempted a suicide, and we don't usually count it, then presumably he was hospitalized. He didn't do it himself. So, on admission, Mr. Mills was interval suspicious. Was it just one singular, or was it auditory hallucinations in general? With a 2-week history of isolation, loss of appetite, don't forget your punctuation, isolation, loss of appetite, and lack of interest in attending work. Well, we all had that. That doesn't make us paranoid. Schizophrenics. During hospitalizations, how many hospitalizations has he had? Sodium valproate level, what? His level was? What does that mean? His sodium, what? So he was kind of, what? He was tested, and his level was, for which was sodium valproate. Well, why would you do that kind of twice? During hospitalization, so the level was increased, was blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't you simply make it part of the same sentence? Why is it 2 sentences? That makes no sense at all. He commenced himself. No, he didn't. I doubt it. Unless he broke into the drugs cabinet. He was commenced on. So, this grammar needs some serious work here. So, why is it short sentence? He. You know, you're supposed to be writing a coherent paragraph, not short sentence, short unconnected sentence, short unconnected sentence. That's not what the examiners want. It was commenced on evidence, which agrees. And he had an individual psychotherapy program. What? So that doesn't really tell me a great deal. It's just an add-on extra sentence. Okay. Overall, Mr. Moses' condition has improved, but the ability to have a right judgment still impaired. And what exactly is a right judgment? What does that mean? I know what you think it means. The ability. So he still has some impairment so his judgmental ability is still impaired. But the ability to have, and what exactly is a right judgment? Judgment about what? So his judgmental ability is impaired. For that, he will stay with his mother. What? So he's going to stay. So he will stay with her because his ability is impaired, or he's being discharged, and separate issue, he's going to stay with his mother. So that's not very clear at all. He will continue on blah, 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 blah. Please note the next deal. So what, the sodium level will check itself? Can't you use passive? Will check itself annually? What you mean, it should be checked annually? So that makes no sense. I'm not sure what you mean by that. That's not clear. I advised him to have individual psychotherapy professional read. Well, did you advise him or did you prescribe it? So this doesn't really say anything. It's not a very good filling out of the narrative, really. And then I would appreciate it if you could follow up Mr. Mills' condition. So you need to restate the purpose. Usually, in view of the above, I would appreciate it if you could. So that's not too bad. But there's a lot of grammar here. The structure internal structure of your sentences needs some work. That purpose needs a little bit of reworking too. Okay, so that's enough for that for today. As you can see, there's a few things you have to work on. Now, as I say, if I were reading this, it's not completely unclear as to what it is you want me to do, but it could be structured better. If I were reading this and I didn't have any other source of information, and I'm not looking at the case notes right now purposely, then this is there's some aspects here that would lead me to have questions. And if I'm having to question what you've written, obviously it's not as good a letter as it could be. So, hope that helps. Moving on to number 4, and that'll do it for today. So I hope that is useful.